Alright, so we're taking a look at some of the projects that we've made with this Ender 5 and talk about some of the experiences and some of the issues and troubleshooting along the way. So to start out, I kind of have them chronologically. What did we start with? The little puppy, which is one of the calibration projects. Just a little puppy, and I don't think this is all going to get washed out with the lighting here. So this little puppy is, does this work better? It's going to wash it out too. Is just a fine resolution and a three-dimensional little puppy cartoon, or cartoon puppy, and I think it came out pretty well without even adjusting the bed or anything. And then I started to make a couple of projects. I'm trying to remember now what order. It would have been the white things first, I suppose. So I think the next thing might have been a bullet, or maybe one of these bullets. And either way, these both start out on the platform and just get built up, and both are pretty decent little models of pretty close to being the right dimensions. We'll do videos exploring these in the future. Then I started to print out this van and had a couple of failures after the grill. Had some failures printing out the body, so a friend gave me some black filament or plastic. It's better quality technically, I guess. So than the white stuff that came with the Ender. So I was able to successfully print this thing out on the next run, and then started printing things in black. Did a couple of these 50 BMGs. What would you call this? Like a polymer faced one, or I don't know what they call that. Then we did a couple of different versions to work on a project. Did one that's half this way, a cross section this way. Kind of played with the different softwares to create that. And then another version with the removable projectile that is built the same way, but in a completely different way, where you get an actual case and an actual round with a shaft going up the center. It's kind of interesting to watch that one print out. So did some different stuff with the cartridges, and then I wanted to do something different. Did some shapes, did some of these projects with logos. So started out with a lot of these, making the project. Like this one was our first logo turned into 3 dimensions. Played around with the sizes and the different colors there, and then started working on others. Eventually got to this one, which has its own issues, but playing with different techniques and things. Along the way, worked on these. I was going to say at some point we figured out that when you print them right side up, you're ended up with a weird kind of texture, I guess, kind of design element, that if you like it, you like it, but if you don't, then it's distracting. So started flipping the designs over so you get the finished design more consistent, and made a bunch of these, and started adding things like holes going through them. I don't know if you're going to see that on video, but added holes going through. I can't tell if that's showing up or not. Yeah, right around there. You got some holes going through these things. So that was kind of fun. And then bringing it down in scale so that you can keep the hole going through it, but bringing it way down in size. Playing with the resolution of it and keeping that hole going through it. I made a couple of little things to play around with dimensionality? I don't know the word. So playing around with how thin the thing could go. Found some areas that the printer has issues, or I need to learn how to adjust, perhaps. How to compensate for thin, flat prints versus tall, thick prints, for example, versus complicated, and then other ones I guess you could call kind of simple. So made some little boxes, which are interesting, working with scaling and precision. So these things are pretty tight, and I'd be curious to talk to people who have built things that interact like this, that have parts that mesh, to see how people deal with that. And then of course tried to build the van. That's pretty close to getting most of it done. However, having some issues with this middle section. For whatever reasons, as is, it just is not printing for me. So we'll have some challenges there to overcome. But have basically an entire model kit of a van printed out here on this chassis that was a little stupid toy, and now it'll be a cool 4x4 van. To going along with the toys, made a bunch of toys for Lego dudes, so now they have actual Glocks instead of fake Lego toys or fake Lego guns. Also made some little cranks for Lego guys, and played around with some puzzles and interaction, again trying to figure out how to get pieces to work together. I think there's some issues with the material itself and the construction, so the layers and the interactions is going to be something to think about. And then made a couple of handcuff key little things, again working with direction, the material, like the creation of it with the process, maybe, I don't know what to say, but figuring out how to get that as strong as possible and also as dimensionally accurate as possible. You don't have a lot of space to work at with something like that. And then I think maybe last would be this little test, which is something that you print, and it has around the circle here you have different discs inside of an area. So this is the one with the most dimension, or the sloppiest one, the easiest one for a printer to create. So it prints this whole thing as one piece, and this outside piece holds each of these small discs. So it's basically a fidget spinner, and then each of these incrementally, the dimension between the disc, the little part, and the outside gets smaller. So it starts with 35 probably millimeters, I don't know, 30, 25, 20, you get to 15, 12, and then 10 is basically, I had to break 10, like 12 almost spun by itself, I had to just kind of move it, and then with 15, right, with 15 I had to basically, 15 was fine, 12 I had to kind of touch it, and then with 10 I had to stick a screwdriver in the back and turn it, torque it, and then that allowed 10 to spin, and it now spins without hardly any play because it's so much, so little room there. But then there's a 7 and a 5, and they've effectively welded together. The printer can only do so much precision, so the 5 and the 7, no matter what I do, they won't spin in the puck won't spin in the cylinder because the dimensionality, just the printer wasn't able to create that dimensionality. It's basically one piece. So that gives you an idea, using this, it gives you an idea of how accurate your printer can be. And this is again something I'll have conversations with others, maybe do other calibration or accuracy tests like this. I guess this one was also similar. Obviously no moving parts, and this one's just you visually look and see if everything looks good, consistent and pleasant, versus this one where you're physically getting some feedback on the ability of the printer. I think we hit everything there. So with that, that's an introduction for a few moments with the first projects out of the Ender 5. Next up, we'll be assembling the Ender 3 and then printing out there. We'll compare parts. I'm guessing they'll be pretty similar, but that'll be something we'll do. And then time, how long it takes to create some of these parts. As you can see, we also experimented a bit with doing some production runs, seeing how long a part would take. Some of these, trying it in different densities or different characteristics of the print, checking to see if we change something how we could speed it up or get a better print. So some of these are repetitive runs to tweak different elements of the print. Others are just to see what it's like to try to kick out print after print. Some of these are also tests to do multiple prints at one time. And again, we'll get into all of those in the rest of this series. But for now, please leave us any comments or questions you might have. We can't answer a lot of questions, but we can certainly take those questions to experts who can answer them. If we want to go live, let us know. Otherwise, we'll create more videos to answer those questions and the others that we come up with in our exploration of 3D printing. But to get started, I would summarize this introduction with, if you've hesitated, grab a 3D printer. It's certainly worth the investment. We know that you can pass it along, donate it, resell it if you don't end up liking it, but I suspect once you figure out the practical applications, when you need to make something kind of snappy or useful, and then you can personalize it pretty easily, that can be pretty handy as just a kind of a Star Trek duplicator or replicator. And for just having some fun creatively, it's neat, but practically I could see these are going to have a lot of use. The materials are a lot stronger than I thought. They're not perfect, but I've only played with one material so far, and just with what I've played with so far, I can really see the appeal. So if you're interested in it at all, I'd say it's definitely worth exploring the topic or grabbing a printer and exploring some of these projects that interest you, and see where it takes you. I think very much like a guitar or a shotgun or something, you might have one and have the thing and keep it in the closet, have it and practice with it every weekend, have it and use it once a year during the season, when you feel like it, or some mix of all of that. And this one, at least, knock on wood, is pretty quiet, fairly easy to use, so super easy to set up, and can't recommend them enough. So with that, we'll end this introduction and series intro, I guess, introduction to the printer, but then introduction to this series, and we'll be back to pick you up later.